tortured, repressed, prosecuted, arrested, detained, and the diaspora continues to assist them. And it is extremely important to discuss all these issues related to diaspora as well, among others. And we have to discuss how to promote this helping hand offered by the diaspora. It is extremely important to discuss, plan, and have a deeper understanding of how to more efficiently work and cooperate for today and the future, so that our concerted effort, consolidation, and unity will result in democracy in Belarus. Belarus, which is going to be democratic, a stable neighbor, a stable partner, and the role of Germany is extremely important here. We don't border on Germany, but we are the neighboring country via Poland, and partnership between Germany, Poland, and Belarus is vital. And also, Germany is playing a very important key role in the entire European Union and has an impact on the EU policy as such. Therefore, this format, this platform, this meeting is a working format. It is going to be fruitful and effective, and I hope we are going to witness the situation that from Berlin, Vilnius, and Warsaw, we can come to Minsk and organize a forum, not with Lukashenko as it happened in the past, but under the white, red, and white banner in Belarus, where we have not a single political prisoner, and we are going to use German, Polish experience of transformation, and we will implement reforms in our new Belarus. Thank you very much. Long live Belarus.
Thank you, Alice. And we're very grateful that European Radio for Belarus is supporting all the events. Now the board president of European Radio for Belarus, Dmitry Noviko, will give some greetings. Thank you, sir.
To begin with, let me welcome you all here. I'm unfortunately sad that the Minsk Forum is unfortunately being held not in Minsk, but in Warsaw and other cities, not in Minsk. I hope that we are going to see the Minsk Forum in Minsk in the future, as it should be. I would like to represent the Belarusian media outlets. And as you are well aware, more than 30 our journalists, colleagues, representatives of the media are behind bars at the moment. It will not be an exaggeration to say that practically all independent media outlets have been closed down. There is a crackdown on the media in Belarus. People are detained and arrested and imprisoned. Searches are carried out in their editorial boards, and everything happens against the backdrop of the situation when some ordinary people thought that Belarus was an island of stability, and today we have a humanitarian catastrophe, disaster in the middle of Europe. Therefore, the situation is extremely complex, and to begin with, we will have to resist provocation. We have to have an eye-bird's view on the situation. We, as journalists, have to have a general view of the situation. And always, we have to remember that we have to be and stay professionals. We have to be professionals. Only in such a way we can save our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're also very glad that the Belarusian Institute for Strategic Studies is being a partner for the whole Minsk Forum. We'll now have a word of greetings from the academic director, Piotr Rutkowski.
Thank you. Мы не выбираем времена, в которых нам жить, но мы выбираем путь, который нам...
We do not choose the time we were to live. We choose the way we can live. Those are the words of Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. So we choose the way we live, but not the time we live in. We are talking about Belarus on the 30th anniversary of independent Belarus. And as Mr. Novikov has just said, it's sad that although we are thinking about this anniversary, this meeting is taking place in many different cities, but not in Minsk. And we see that the path of independent Belarus is specific. Unfortunately, Belarus is dependent. It is dependent on lies, on dictatorship. It is dependent on the narrow scope of personal interests of a narrow group of people. So what should be our path? What should be our way in these diaspora? We're going to talk about journalism, education. Those are the topics of the Warsaw part of the Minsk Forum, and they will bring us closer to the answers we are looking forward to. So I would like to welcome you at the Warsaw part of the Minsk Forum. I would like to wish you a fruitful discussion, and I do wish genuine independence to our Belarus. Long live Belarus.
So thank you for all the words of greetings. Almost unbelievable. We started a little bit late and now are on schedule almost perfectly again. We'll start with the first panel, the 2021 migration crisis and challenges for the diaspora, which is moderated by Aliaksej from TEDx. And I will ask all the panelists from the first forum to come on stage. Thank you very much.
Здравствуйте, дамы и господа.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, Peter. Let us begin our today's section. As Peter has already said, the title of this panel discussion is the 2021 Migration Crisis. And it is worth noting that this panel discussion was being planned prior to the exacerbation of events on the Polish-Belarusian border. And this panel discussion is not directly devoted to the current events that are happening merely 250 kilometers away from here on the Polish-Belarusian border, but in part, it does refer to those events as well. So we're going to talk about mass migration of cultural activists, of professionals, of different experts, of rank-and-file people. And this is the migration of people from Belarus as they're leaving Belarus to other countries to take care of their safety, security, and health. And our experts will have time, approximately 10 minutes, for each person will have 10 minutes to speak, and during the speakers' presentations. Some experts who are here on the stage may ask questions so as to clarify some points. But after all the speakers speak, after all the experts speak, we will have time, I hope, and we will receive questions from the audience. So I would ask the audience to prepare your questions so that you can actually direct your questions to the experts once they invite to the stage Karalina Sauka, the Center for Socio-Economic Research Case, Belarus. Good morning. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers for this possibility to present the partial results of our work. May I ask for to switch on the presentation, please? And I would like to begin with the numbers, some figures that will help us to understand the migration of Belarusians. I apologize, Madam Speaker is speaking too far from the microphone. Could someone please ask her to speak closer to the microphone? So let us move to the slides. Here we see the number of first permits granted to Belarusian citizens in the EU in 2020. There was a significant number of such permits granted, and these numbers could be considered to be minimum figures because not everyone applies for a permit. And in Poland, this procedure takes up to 6 months, and sometimes it is even longer than that, and not all those who have arrived in 2020 would be registered in this statistics. Many of those people shall be granted their permits in 2021. So one might expect that as far as the data for 2021 is concerned, there we shall see a significant growth in the number of permits granted. Now let us move on. Next slide, please. Now, migration from Belarus to the EU. And here we can see a number of important factors that stimulate migration in the long run. First and foremost, this is the differential in the economic development and in salaries gap. Also, there is a lot of hidden unemployment in Belarus, and recently we may also see that Russian Federation has become less attractive to Belarusian migrants. And also one should not forget that as far as political and civil rights are concerned, this is not a new circumstance for Belarus, although this aspect has become much more important over the span of the previous year. Now, let's talk about the migration policy of the EU member states. And here we might talk about Poland. And one should also think about the Polish card program. Polish card or Poles card program is there to facilitate granting visas, but even citizenship to those who are eligible under that program. And here we can see a little bit of data. On the top charts, you can see that the western neighbors of Belarus very much way ahead of Belarus and Russia, as well as far as GDP per capita is concerned. Also, the level of salaries is much higher in the Western neighboring countries. And here we can see a tendency of the number of students who travel from Belarus to Russia and to Poland. And if in the past, earlier on, more students were leaving for Russia, then now we have seen a reverse of the situation, and the number of students traveling to Russia is decreasing rapidly. But we see a steady growth of students migrating to Poland. And in 2019 and 2020 academic years, those figures are already comparable. And after the events of 2020, new circumstances have surfaced that compelled Belarusians to leave Belarus. First and foremost, this is an unprecedented growth of the scale of repressions against those who disagreed with the election results in 2020 and on the grounds of the Polish authorities' data, the number of Belarusians who have applied to Poland with a request to provide for international protection has increased tenfold. And over a span of first 6 months of 2021, this protection status was applied for by 904 people. So, generally speaking, perhaps these numbers seem to be not that big. However, if we compare it with the previous earlier periods of time, then we will see a very significant growth in number of those who apply for protection. And also, business environment has deteriorated. Also, the new tax legislation is results in greater migration numbers, and also there is political and economic pressure being exerted on business people that also leads to higher migration numbers. And in August this year, we published a report. We have interviewed a number of Belarusian migrants who have left Belarus for the EU. And we cannot say that this is a representative research. It is not. However, it still gives us a certain level of understanding of migration from Belarus to the EU. So we see a significant difference as far as the reasons of leaving Belarus are concerned. That is, that refers to those who left before August 2020 and after. So the reasons to leave are different. And those who have left after the election 2020 had different reasons to go. So if in the past people were leaving in order to pursue their professional goals or for personal reasons, then now the situation has changed. And as far as the previous year is concerned, here the political situation in Belarus has compelled many people to leave, and also criminal prosecution has become one of the reasons to leave the country.
Мы спросили наших респондентов, с какими проблемами.
Now, we have spoken to our interviewees, and we asked them what were the problems and challenges that they have faced abroad. And they report that it was difficult for them to find a job that would correspond to their qualifications level. And also there are problems with using the healthcare system in the country. And we spoke to many people who have left for Poland. So this is the picture that describes the situation in Poland primarily. And those who have left for a number of other reasons, the main problem for them is finding housing.
99 из 140 наших респондентов.
And 39 of our 140 interviewees had unemployment at the time of doing the research. More than 40% of respondents worked in IT and digital sector. And in Poland, this number is more than 50%. It's actually 51% work in IT and digital business, and 10% are entrepreneurs and freelancers. We also asked those employed respondents to evaluate the extent to which the job corresponded to their qualifications, and 65% of respondents claimed that their job was adequate to their level of qualification. 17% were saying that their job position was higher than qualifications. 18% claimed that their job position was lower than their level of qualifications. And another comment here: in principle, the respondents have a, generally speaking, very positive attitude to their stay abroad, and more than 80% of them say that they are learning new things as they stay abroad, and only 6% are pessimistic, and they claim that they are actually losing their skills.
Что касается планов на
As regards plans for the future, 65% of interviewees want to go back to Belarus under favorable circumstances. The longer they stay abroad, the fewer the percentage of those who wanted to go back to Belarus, to return to their home country. It is interesting that we asked a question, I will go back to Belarus if. Only 8% said, I will never return. The majority claim they're going to go back to Belarus when political prisoners are released and the democracy is installed in Belarus. And on this positive note, let me conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, Karolina. We have time to discuss these issues among experts. Do you have questions to the speaker? Thank you very much. A very interesting presentation. We're not going to discuss the representative nature.
Вот у вас был такой мотив, что такое?
Personal reasons. What do you mean by personal reasons? Thank you. Frankly speaking, this is a subjective viewpoint and response of an interviewee. So something unrelated to political or economic situation, for example, or professional issues. These are personal issues. So specific, subjective, micro reasons outside economic, political, and other global issues. So this could be anything, actually. Thank you. This change, this shift in motivation is extremely interesting from economic to political aspects. So theoretically, it's extremely interesting. Thank you. Dear experts, other questions, other comments? No. Therefore, let us move to the next speaker. The next speaker, in accordance with the agenda, Alexander Zarembiuk, the head of Belarusian House Foundation. Over to you. Thank you. I looked at the slides and statistical data about the applications to the Belarusian House Foundation over the past few months. The picture is very similar. Before spring 2021, many individuals who have referred to the Foreign Affairs Center in Poland, they hoped for changes in their home country, and many political migrants believed that springtime will mean the improvement of a situation, and after the victory they can go back home. Research unfortunately shows that after the springtime, more people from Belarus applied for asylum in Poland and other countries, including the downing the landing of the airplane, as you remember. And many people from Belarus live here having humanitarian visas. More than 5,000 Belarusians were assisted by our Belarusian House Foundation with counseling, financial, medical assistance, psychological rehabilitation, helping with humanitarian visas. And these are not only visas for Belarusian and Ukrainian citizens. These are major countries where people referred for visas: Georgia, Turkey, and Russia. People applied for humanitarian visas there. So people tried to escape at the last possible moment and applied for visas. Poland, unlike other EU countries, is well prepared for providing assistance to Belarusians. After the first days of repressions and first humanitarian visas were handed over in August already, there were humanitarian corridors established. Andrei Duda, the president of Poland, during his speech on the 23rd of September in the UN, 150,000 Belarusians are residing in Poland now, including thousands of participants of protests who found employment, jobs in Poland. And I told my brothers and sisters from Belarus that Poland is going to be their new home if they decide to reside here, the president of Poland asserted. The Eurostat says 598,000 of different types of visas were issued, 50,000 residence permits. This is more compared to other EU member states, 63,528 residence permits, and almost 51,000 residence permits were issued in Poland. And it testifies to what Karalina mentioned, that only a small minority of Belarusians applied for political asylum. Let me quote statistical data. Due to the fact that people apply for legalizing their stay in Poland while studying, working, or having the Polish card, therefore, there is no need to apply for political asylum, in fact. Therefore, we can see huge figures as regards the number of migrants, but a small minority of them apply for political asylum in Poland. Since June 2020 until late 2021, Poland issued 178,711 visas. Around 12,000 are humanitarian visas, and they allow people to find employment. For example, an individual can be granted one type of visa, and a year later they would apply for another humanitarian visa, so the previous visas were extended, and Polish consulates always support Belarusians. During the first 3 quarters of this year, more than 1,400 applications for asylum were filed. 732 applications received positive reply to this application. Many people are granted residence permits and other types of visas. Another important figure, in accordance with the official data, about 10% of IT sector from Belarus has moved to Poland. More than 10% of the IT sector in Belarus has moved to Poland. Let me reiterate, following the situation of the presidential election in 2020. So this is a brain drain from Belarus due to the repressions by the regime. These are also physicians, lawyers, teachers, not only IT specialists, and sociologists, as we can see. Andrei suggests, unfortunately. About 1,000 Belarusian students are studying here under the Kalinowski scholarship program. There are a number of other scholarships, NAVA, Kirkland scholarship program, the Leaders of Change. Since August 2020, the Belarusian House Foundation has financially assisted 260 representatives of Belarus who were forced to leave. I am speaking about financial aid. We also offer Polish courses, rehabilitation, medical assistance. More than 5,000 Belarusians applied for assistance and received it. 127 people in 2020 underwent medical rehabilitation in health resorts in Poland. And I must say that financial aid and rehabilitation assistance, it's more than 1 million zloty, not only from the Polish budget as part of the program Solidarity with Belarus, but also resources funds as part of the crowdfunding campaign, which also means that the Belarusian diaspora has a huge potential and has a say in this very difficult situation. As regards the Belarusian diaspora, our organization has been in operation for more than 10 years, more than a decade. We could experience some skeptical remarks of our Western partners as regards the diaspora. There used to be such an approach from Western governments and donors that the Belarusian diaspora does not have a say, that these people have assimilated and have forgotten about Belarus. In 2020 and today, we can see that it's totally wrong, and diaspora does play a very important role and does have a say. And starting October last year, more and more often we have seen the attempts by Belarusian services, secret services and intelligence that want to destroy the diaspora. They try to implant certain secret agents because the regime does understand that the diaspora does have a potential and it is independent as a certain structure, let's say. And to conclude, let me say that in spring, 100 people used to refer to us, 70, 60 people in March, May, April, during a month. In October, the data show 210 individuals asked for help and appealed to us for help. So repressions are underway. The crackdown is continuing in Belarus, and they have to escape. Otherwise, they will be persecuted, and a huge number of people are leaving Belarus because they can see no positive prospects for their future. Unfortunately for our country, for Belarus, for the Belarusian society, it is a very sad picture because the brain drain is being observed. The best liberal pro-European people are leaving our home country. And we have to remember and think about programs, about initiatives that could support this potential and use this potential.
And also, we need to think how those people who gain some education, skills and links in the West, how could those people be used in a good sense of this word so as to promote the agenda reform in Belarus once change occurs. Is it going to happen in 2 years from now? Is it going to happen in 1 month from now, or maybe in 5 years from now? It still will be very important because there will be a very short period of time available so as to be able to run the reforms, and the reforms will have to be done effectively. Therefore, we need people with Western mentality, with Western culture, with Western education and Western upbringing. And Georgia of Saakashvili's time is a good example of that. When they were delegating young people abroad, they received education abroad in the West, and then they returned to Georgia to run the reforms, and that is important. And therefore we need to work, all of us need to work together so that our diaspora, which is a very large diaspora, it's very influential, so that our diaspora becomes very active if reforms will are run in Belarus in the future. Thank you very much, Alice. And dear colleagues, now we have a minute and a half for questions and answers. Dear experts, do you have any questions? Yes, I do have a question. So, I have been subjected to repressions. I left in 2020, and I am in touch with other Belarusians who have left. And people say that they received higher education in Belarus. They graduated from one faculty or several faculties. But here, as far as IT sector is concerned, or as far as healthcare sector is concerned, these people see that they're in a difficult situation. It's very difficult to recognize diplomas, but it's quite, well, actually in IT and healthcare, it's easier to recognize the diplomas, but it's more difficult in other sectors. So perhaps that. Thank you, Marina, for your quite kind question. Yes, we have to work together, and we need to talk to the Polish government, because we see that as far as the healthcare sector is concerned, yes, they have indeed simplified the diploma nostrification processes, and there is a possibility for those medical doctors who have come to Poland to find employment according to their qualifications in the Polish healthcare system. We also have an agreement between Belarus and Poland on the mutual recognition of diplomas. And now the point was of the requalification, and I think that in this case we need to talk to the Polish government and to the Polish parliament so that they also introduce some changes into the legislation. Just the way it was done with the humanitarian visas, because humanitarian visas initially were being granted, but Belarusians did not have the right to work on the grounds of a humanitarian visa. But then later on, they started issuing such visas, granted such visas in August, but then they introduced changes into the regulations, and as of December, employment is possible. So I think that in this situation, we need to follow suit and do exactly the same way, so that people will have an opportunity to have their diplomas acknowledged, higher educational diplomas acknowledged as quickly as possible, so that they can find relevant employment. Because it's a problem. Many people used to be university teachers in the past, and now they have to pursue some low-skill employment and work in shops. So perhaps we need to solve this problem together. Yes, I fully agree with you, and undoubtedly we shall talk about this problem, and we will have a joint request forwarded. This is a very good example of how Belarusians act. By the way, Maria Maroz, the chairwoman, A Country to Live In Foundation, is our next speaker to take the floor. She's just about to begin, and just a reminder to our online audience that now we're broadcasting, and you are following a broadcast of the 19th Minsk Forum that, for a number of reasons, is taking place in many different cities, but not in Minsk. And here in Warsaw, we are talking about the 2021 migration crisis and challenges for the diaspora. And our next speaker is Maria Maroz, chairwoman, A Country to Live In Foundation. Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers of this forum for a possibility to take part in this forum. And I would like to talk about how it feels to leave your beloved country, not because when you want to leave it in search for better life for you and your family, but for another reason. The reason being that if you do not leave, you shall be imprisoned. In 2019, our nation decided to say no to the man who for 26 years had been destroying and annihilating our culture, our history, and our language. He was destroying our independent political institutes. He wanted to transform our nation into a grey mass, incapable of voicing their wishes, and would not be capable of changing the situation. But the nation decided to say no, and we said no the way we do it, without bloodshed, without forceful actions, and many Belarusians ended up in the same situation as I'm right now in. I'm one of those who had to leave the country because of the repressions. And do you know what it means to not know how to find a kindergarten or a school? And how does it feel when you think that you shall not find employment because it's so very difficult to find what you need, but you've got to live here and now. You have to settle your life somehow, to arrange your life somehow abroad, being abroad. And then, as you walk the street, you hear your own language being spoken, and you approach that person, and it turns out to be just the same Belarusian like you who had to leave in 2020. And so he asked me, how can I help you? And then he says here, there is this a place where Belarusians help each other, advise each other. And here we have an organization that gives legal aid on the legalization. And here is a school for Belarusian kids, where you can refer your children, where children can attend and speak their mother tongue, Belarusian language. And all of a sudden you realize you are not alone. We are Belarusians. We're close to each other. We help each other. But regardless of this help, sometimes you do cry into a pillow because you want to go home, but you cannot. Because at home, there are relatives, there are friends, this is your home. There are neighbors, there are trees, there are the paths that you used to tread. But still, you cannot go back, because if you return, you shall be imprisoned. And also that Belarusian gentleman on the street cannot return back home for the same reason. And thousands of Belarusians cannot go back home, because if they go back home, they end up in prison. They're innocent people. So this is the cross we carry. This is the cross that is carried by this generation. And when people were forced to leave their home country, they received aid from those who had left much earlier on, maybe for different reasons, but the Belarusian diaspora does help, and so there are new initiatives being new fora and new organizations that have mushroomed in the diaspora, and this support is very, very important. So now the foundations are extending solidarity aid to people, and they actually extend the aid that should otherwise have been granted by the state, but the state does not extend that support. So there are many social problems that have become global problems, and these problems have been addressed by different foundations, NGOs and organizations, and these organizations are much faster and better in addressing those issues, because this is a self-organizing society, and it is much closer to all these problems. So this is how my foundation, A Country to Live In. I'm a chairwoman of this organization. We have chosen one social problem to address, and we are trying to solve it, which is the problem of giving help to the families of political prisoners. One foundation alone cannot possibly address all of these problems. Just like there is no one single remedy for all diseases. There is a multitude of organizations, and they are solving different social problems, and each organization is addressing one specific problem. The problem that we are facing in our foundation is giving help to the families of political prisoners. Political prisoners are still out there, and the number of political prisoners has been increasing, and there are children without parents. There are families where both parents have been imprisoned, and so the children are staying with their grandparents. There are families where mother is left alone with 2, 3, or even 4 children, and the father is behind the bars. So such are the families that we are helping. We are granting them monthly material help, and we are the type of organization, the only type of organization that gives monthly financial aid to such families with children. So as long as the problem is out there, we're going to exist, and we are going to combine charity campaigns, charity auctions, charity collections, fundraising, and so on and so forth. Charity activities are very much cherished by people, by the relatives of political prisoners, and the diaspora is playing a very important role in charity activities because the diaspora is influential, and we are type of organization that acts as if a bridge, like a bridge. We are bridging the diaspora with those who are still in Belarus, and the support given by diaspora is very large. So we appeal to the members of the active Belarusian diaspora to join our ambassador program. We meet ambassadors on a quarterly basis, and we present information, and we speak about the many projects that have been run. And the ambassadors then may, our ambassadors may run such programs abroad. They speak about Belarus, they speak about the families of political prisoners as they meet their peers as they work abroad. And so the foundation will be here as long as the social problem is still there. So the problem we're dealing with are political prisoners. Political prisoners must be set free. The sooner, the better. And our organization alone cannot possibly do it all. We coordinate our activities with organizations, with the diaspora, with the global community. We are in touch with the democratic forces. We need to do anything that needs to be done so that the political prisoners are freed.